In today's discussion, we focus on the case of Jowet Lyagova versus Bachisonga and others 1963, which arose directly from the enactment of the Busoga Election Validation Act of 1963. The background is as follows. After Uganda attained independence in 1962, Busoga was required to elect members of the Busoga District Council, which in turn would elect the Kyabazinga, the cultural head of Busoga. However, the elections to the council were challenged in court, and Justice Sheridan declared them invalid on grounds that they had not been conducted in accordance with the provisions of the 1962 Constitution. This decision casts not only doubt on the legitimacy of the council itself, but also on the validity of the Kyabazinga's elections. In response, the Parliament of Uganda enacted the Busoga Election Validation Act of 1963. The purpose of this act was to essentially cure the defects identified by the court by declaring that notwithstanding their irregularities, the elections and all acts flowing from them was valid. It was in this context that Jowet Lyagova brought proceedings against Bachisonga and others, arguing that Parliament could not, by legislation, overturn a judicial decision. The challenge raised fundamental questions about the relationship between judicial authority and legislative power. The court, however, dismissed Lyagova's case. At that time, Uganda's constitution did not contain a provision equivalent to the present-day Article 92, which expressly prohibits Parliament from passing legislation to overturn court judgments. Consequently, the Busoga Election Validation Act remained a valid law. The significance of this case lies in the illustration of the early tension between the principles of parliamentary supremacy and judicial independence in Uganda's constitutional order. It highlights how, in the presence of express constitutional safeguards, Parliament exercised wide power to retrospectively validate actions that had been declared unlawful by courts of law. This episode remains a reference point in understanding the evolution of Uganda's constitutional framework, particularly with regard to the doctrine of separation of powers and the present prohibition against legislative reversal of judicial decisions.